Hello, whoever you are, wherever you are, and however you come to be watching this video. I hope you find it informative, and I hope you accept that it was made with good intentions, and that no attempt will be made during it to scaremonger or overwhelm you with data or tortured statistics. I'm a real person. My name is Derek Jackson. I live in Scotland, which is part of the United Kingdom. Me and the other 66 million people in the United Kingdom, along with billions of people in the rest of the world, are currently being subjected to an unprecedented campaign of conditioning and fear-mongering by our governments and international institutions, principally the World Health Organization. The basis for their fear-mongering and conditioning us to accept draconian, intrusive and tyrannical powers and restrictions on our liberty and freedom is that we should be afraid. We should be very, very afraid of dying, either us dying or our loved ones dying from a very, very infectious and deadly pathogen called COVID-19, which threatens to kill millions of people unless we do exactly what we're told. But what if that wasn't true? What if the facts didn't support that? What if facts that you could know, that you could hear and understand quite simply, just weren't being put in front of you for your consideration? What if, instead, all you get is endless fear-mongering and conditioning about how dangerous the world of infectious viruses is, and how your government is going to by injecting you with something they haven't tested properly and which won't help? Shh, I'm going to come to that. And so the main purpose of this video is to share with you an open letter written by, let me see if I can find this, written by the Belgian doctors, not only to their government, but to the wider world. Good afternoon. Now, this letter contains a rebuttal and refutation of nearly everything we are being told. And I will share the link to this letter in the video once I've finished. I couldn't do it as I was going live, but I will append the information of this video with the link to this letter. You can read the whole thing for yourself. I'm just going to give you a summation, a breakdown, bullet points, if you will, and in the hope that you'll find it useful. More than that, actually, in the hope that you will read it, believe it, share it, and with your friends and family, stop believing this fear-mongering nonsense, and stop accepting and consenting in any way at all to the curtailment of your liberty, your freedom to associate, to visit your family, to conduct your business at will without interference by a government. Oh, well, that's interesting, because in the space of looking at it and preparing for this video, it has been deleted from Facebook, which is interesting, isn't it? Well, that's just fascinating. Well, let me recap from memory what the Belgian Doctors Association have got to say. First of all, as far as viruses go, the coronavirus is no more dangerous than the flu and represents a normal infectious wave. We've had a peak, which is typical and normal for infectious viruses in the community. Human immune systems are tuned to respond quickly and acquire immunity over a period of time. I'm just going to set up my email so I can receive this via other means. So just bear with me. And so the Belgian Doctors Association are pointing out that flu and coronavirus share the same, virtually the same wave and virtually the same death rate. If you look at the Office of National Statistics for Britain, you'll find that flu killed more people this year than the coronavirus, and that the lockdown did not prevent that from happening. In Belgium, they have just abandoned the rule of 5 and the lockdown because it made no difference to the spread of COVID-19. No difference whatsoever. But the most telling, perhaps the most telling piece of information in the Belgian Doctor's Open Letter is that the test to see if you are infectious, the test to tell if anybody is infectious, the test which is currently being used to claim that hundreds of thousands of people are infected with COVID-19 in your country, doesn't work very well. In fact, the false positive rate is so high that this test would detect antibodies from similar viruses, the flu or the cold, or dead antibodies from your reaction to having already encountered the virus. Furthermore, nobody, virtually nobody, who tests positive for COVID-19 is infectious. Virtually nobody. The viral load, that is the amount of virus in your body, would be an indicator as to whether you were infectious or not. But the PCR test, that thing they shove up the nose, that does not test for viral load. That simply tests for antibodies of your immune system to a virus. And the chances of you having encountered a virus in the last 6 months are very, very high. It's almost certain that you have encountered a virus in the last 6 months and produced antibodies. And the most common viruses in our ecosystem are coronaviruses, the common cold and influenza. So, when they're testing you at the side of the road, or knocking on your door, or demanding you have a test because of your work, you're very likely to test positive and almost certainly not infectious. Absolutely, certainly not infectious. Therefore, claims as to the dangers that this represents are unfounded. We can all go about our lives. We really can. If you tested positive, you're almost certainly not infectious, and you're no danger to me. And if I test positive, I am no danger to you. Yes, capricious, thanks for that. And so that's the first thing to bear in mind. And the next thing to bear in mind is any forthcoming vaccine, by the way, alleged, its efficacy will be alleged, because even after decades and decades of research, the annual influenza vaccine is unlikely to help you. In fact, studies have shown that at its very best, once or twice in the decades we've been doing it, it was just about 50% effective in healthy people. In unhealthy people, if you're unhealthy, if you're old and unwell, the vaccine will not stop you dying from the flu. It won't, because your immune system is what stops you dying from the flu, not the vaccine. Vaccine helps if they get it right. The vaccine helps if they get it right, and if it is that year effective, if they've done a good job. But if you're old and sick and you get the flu, you could well become very ill and die anyway. And the same will be true of the coronavirus vaccine. It's simply unlikely to be efficacious at all. And if you're old and sick, it won't be. Old sick people die all the time, and we don't shut the economy for it, and we don't lock people up, and we don't take away people's liberties and freedoms. Now, I am determined to get this link up. So bear with me just a moment, because I think I have the solution. Okay, I've got it on an email. Okay, open letter. All right, I'm just going to sum this up. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will. Well, even though I have my email, it's still disappearing. Okay. What is going on? Well, gosh, I had hoped to be able to share at least some of the content of this open letter. Let me see if I can get around this pop-up. Okay. Here we go. All right. Headlines from the letter. There is no medical justification for any emergency policy anymore. The current crisis management is totally disproportionate and will cause more damage to health than it is doing any good. We call for an end to all measures and ask for an immediate restoration of our normal democratic governance and legal structures and of our civil liberties. The doctors go on to note that health The concept of health was defined by the World Health Organization as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or other physical impairment. Therefore, your health, which is severely affected by lockdown, social distancing, and restrictions on your liberty, your ability to visit your friends and family, that is your health. Your health is not being free from the possibility of contracting a virus, which you will almost certainly survive. Okay. The predicted pandemic with millions of deaths has not happened. It hasn't. There are no bodies piling up in the streets. Globally, the death rate has been 5,000 a day for 4 months. It's completely flat. The wave is over. We are now settling down to coexist with the virus, wherever it came from. I promise you, no speculation, no conspiracy theories. There's a virus. We hadn't seen it before. We have encountered it, and now it's in our communities, and we will live with it. The WHO predicted that there would be a 3.4% death rate. In other words, millions of deaths. But in fact, the death rate is similar, if not identical, to seasonal flu at 0.2%. The course of COVID-19 has followed a normal wave of infections similar to a flu season that you see every year. There is nothing different from what we normally see with viruses. The use, this is the crucial part, which I would extol you to commit to memory and tell everybody you know. The use of the non-specific PCR test produces many false positives, and it shows an exponential picture of infection. This test, which was rushed through in an emergency procedure, was never seriously tested and relies upon amplification of antibodies. Any contamination, for example, other viruses, debris from old viruses, can possibly result in false positives. The test does not measure how many viruses are present in a sample. The real viral infection means a massive presence of viruses, the so-called viral load. If someone tests positive, this does not mean that person is actually infected, is ill, is going to become ill, or will infect you or anybody else. These people who are testing positive are not grounds for locking us up, taking away our freedom. A real viral load test must be conducted on a sample of these people so we can see the real picture. This is science. This is science that we need done by the government and our institutions so they can be honestly representing facts to us instead of fear-mongering and conditioning. Lockdown. If you compare the waves of infection in countries with strict lockdown policies to countries that did not impose lockdown, Sweden, Iceland, etc., you will see a similar curve. There is no link between an imposed lockdown and the course of infection. None whatsoever. In fact, in this country, when we had a severe lockdown, the flu, annual influenza, did the same thing it does every year. Odd that, because you would think that due to the lockdown, all infectious encounters were mitigated, but they weren't. Lockdown has not led to a lower mortality rate. There you go. Lockdowns were set after the peak was already over and the number of cases decreasing because the time from infection to illness was the time where the debate took place. At the point of highest infection and mortality, lockdowns came into effect, and then the graph fell away. Your immune system. The human body has been exposed daily to infectious microorganisms for millions of years. You have two parts of the immune system. Only people with weak or faulty immune system should be protected by extensive hygiene or social distancing. Our immune system consists of two parts, a congenital, non-specific, and an adaptive immune system. By subjecting yourself to overly sanitized environments and rituals, you are in fact robbing your body of the chance to remain in a strong immune setting. Only people who are at risk should sanitize their life, their hands, their environment. Most people already have a good immunity because they were already in contact with variants of coronaviruses. The consequences of social isolation on physical and mental health will have a greater toll, eventually, than the virus itself. I'm just reading you some bullet points here. As I say, the whole article will be posted at the bottom here. A highly contagious virus, millions of deaths, and no treatment? Well, mortality has turned out to be much lower than expected. It is close to that of normal seasonal flu at 0.2%. The number of registered corona deaths is overestimated. There is a difference between death by corona and death with corona. Humans carry multiple viruses and potentially pathogenic bacteria all at the same time. Taking into account the fact most people who developed serious symptoms suffered from additional pathology, you cannot conclude that the corona infection was the cause of death in everyone who had it. Again with the test. Okay, we're coming to the end of... So, with new treatments, now that we've known this virus for a while, we have steroid treatments, we have a good track record of treating it with available medicines, and therefore coronavirus is no longer a killer virus. It's not. Coronavirus is unlikely to kill you if you're healthy anyway. Even if you're unhealthy, coronavirus is now very treatable. It is a well-treatable condition which health services in the modern setting in the Western world are well able to treat. Propagation. Healthy people do not put each other at risk. Transfer via objects, shopping, trolleys, etc. has not been scientifically proven. There are serious questions about the policy of social distancing. There is no transmission in the open air. None. It is virtually impossible, nearly absolutely impossible, to transmit the coronavirus in the open air. So we could all go out and party at the beach, at the lake, in the woods, till 3 in the morning with the techno pumping, no problem. Our liberty does not have to be curtailed in that respect. There is no scientific basis for that. Oral mask belongs in the context where contact with proven at-risk groups or people with upper respiratory complaints take place. The medical context, hospitals, retirement home settings, where they reduce the risk of infection by sneezing or coughing. Wearing a mask has side effects: oxygen deficiency, headache, nausea, fatigue, loss of concentration, all of which occur fairly quickly. Again, I am just reading bullet points here. Anyone who wears a mask is in extremely poorly ventilated room is actually at greater risk of contracting the virus. Inappropriate use of masks without comprehensive medical cardiopulmonary tests is not recommended. A second corona wave. A second wave is now being discussed, with further tightening of measures. However, closer examination shows that although there's been an increase in the number of infections, there is no increase in hospital admissions or deaths. It's therefore not a second wave, but a so-called case chemistry due to increased number of tests and inaccurate testing. The number of hospital admissions or deaths showed a short-lasting minimal increase in recent weeks. The vast majority of victims are still over 75. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because it was quite difficult to navigate the blocking pop-ups and the deleted Facebook post there, which is interesting, isn't it? Because this letter has been signed by thousands of doctors and medical professionals in Belgium. And so these people, I should just like to add on a personal note, these people are not David Icke. David Icke is a fucking lunatic. Excuse my language. The idea that David Icke or Piers Corbyn should be the face in Britain of a protest against these draconian and unnecessary laws stripping us of freedom, liberty, privacy and the right of association is outrageous. These people are stupid. These people are morons. They are demonstrably nut jobs. And that they should be chosen or selected or pushed in front of any protest about coronavirus is deeply disturbing to me, because these people are the very people, they are the best people I can imagine to turn genuine and proper and legitimate protest into a group that could be dismissed as quacks, loons, conspiracy theorists, and fringe nutjobs. I am not a fringe nutjob. David Icke does not speak for me. David Icke is a moron. Piers Corbyn is a moron. These people do not speak for me. The Belgian Medical Association, those are the kind of people I'm interested in speaking for me. Long-term, professional, serious-minded people with medical qualifications and jobs in the real world dealing with virology, epidemiology, medical care, and treating people who are sick. Those are the people who speak for me. Those are the people I am quoting. Those are the people I am promoting that you promote. Those are the people I am suggesting we share their information. Do not be sharing any of David Icke's rubbish, Piers Corbyn's nonsense. Share this link. Share information from Nobel Prize winning scientists, from professional doctors and virologists, because these people are being excluded from the debate. These people have been shut out and their stories are not being heard. Instead, what we're getting, and I'm going to show you the picture again. What we're getting is an endless stream of conditioning, right? Conditioning that you should strongly feel afraid and want injected at the side of the road by G4S. You are being conditioned so that your fear leads you to make very bad decisions. Now, I may be preaching to the choir here because of my history on YouTube, but I hope that somehow this link and perhaps a video like this or others get out there. I have got nothing to do with the lunatics, the BAMs, the morons and the fools promoting nonsense about magical space aliens and 5G networks and things like that. There is no pandemic. The bodies are not piling up in the streets. If I test positive, I am not infectious. If you test positive, you are not going to die. If you're over 75 and you get ill, you might well die. That's not really news, is it? It's not really groundbreaking news that people over 75 who get ill die. It's not grounds for taking my freedom, is it? It's not grounds for for shutting down the media, for removing millions of posts about what's happening from social media, for manipulating the message so that all people get is a constant stream of fear and a manipulation to comply and obey. Do not obey. Disobey, dissent, disagree, and do not wear masks, have tests, or take the vaccine. Thanks for listening. I hope you found this information useful and that you make use of the link and share it widely. Good luck to us all.